Co-founding the world's leading science and testing facility, Steep Hill Labs, in 2008. For 7 years, Addison served as Steep Hill's Chief Business Development Officer. Addison also served as the Director of the Medical Cannabis Association in Oakland, California until 2009. Currently, Addison sits at the head of business development for Advanced Nutrients. And also, I got to mention a dear friend of Mickey Martin, who is dearly departed. Fucking awesome. The guy just bumped into me. This guy.
I was mustering up people for the hash panel.
Yeah. All right.
Now you did it. Now you see what
And, is Sean Black here? Or yeah, there he is. What's up, Sean Black? So Sean Black has been writing for High Times for the past decade, focusing on cultivation and concentrate extraction techniques as the magazine's concentrates expert. His main focus for the past several years has been as the Cannabis Cup competition coordinator, traveling around the world, overseeing the competition. Elmo, yeah, that's me. I'm supposed to be sitting on this fucking panel, but I'm moderating it. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm a NorCal guy. I'm from Massachusetts. I ran most of my bubble in Northern California, large scale, turning like $10 to $50 trim into $10 a gram bubble hash. I have absolutely ran metric tons of trim through my bubble bags. I'm also a veteran and all like an angry Facebook troll, and I love all the people on the stage very, very much. Let's see, we got Tyler Brides here. Tyler Brides has 5 years experience with the medical side of cannabis, specializing in the formulation of clean and potent RSO, top shelf bubble hash, effective tinctures, topicals, and edibles. In the mix of all these, he has won himself a few competitions as well. The last few years he spent perfecting his techniques on the rosin press. Team mid-grades here. We got Brett Sack. Brett Sack specializes in growing petite quality cannabis and primarily extracting only solventless concentrates. In 2016, he and this guy Tyler Brides won first place the Solventless Savages with a 73U strawberry banana full melt, and if you've even seen pictures of that, it's unbelievable. Recently, Brett has signed on to be a cultivator for one of the compassion services in Massachusetts. So yeah, we got a bunch of serious hash people here. We're going to talk about bubble hash first. Some people's preferred methods of making bubble hash, whether they like to use a machine or they like to hand wash. Yeah, I don't know. We got 4 microphones here. You guys should probably take one of them. Share them. All right, just starting off. What do you guys prefer for do you like to use a machine or not a machine, and do you prefer to sieve or do you prefer to microplane?
Bathroom open blast. Fans off. Cold press. Fans off. Open blast.
It depends if you want to make good hash or you want to make a lot of hash.
Take a microphone, dude.
Depends if you want to die or if you want to make hash. No, I think BHO is the greatest hash ever.
Yeah! I like my bubble. That's all right, I'll talk.
I like the bubble.
I think before you even get to that, you gotta realize, what am I making the hash for? Am I making it for a large market, or am I trying to make the best hash in the world? And that's how you kind of start approaching what your techniques are going to be. And that even starts with growing and how you grow differently to make different hashes, and as opposed to large colas for flowers.
At the moment, I'm asking questions about ice water extraction.
Another question.
Well,
Are you answering a question from another panel yesterday? So what was the question?
The question is just details of ice water extraction. Do you like to use a machine? Do you like to microplane, or do you like to sieve?
I honestly think if you're going for the best quality, I think dry sift is going to be the highest quality. It's going to press the best. It's going to be the best quality. So I think you should aim for dry sift.
So like a multi-tabled ice cold dry sift.
Mila, please help us.
Mila.
With dry sift, because there's no water involved, all the terpenes are still there, and especially for people who like the aroma and the taste of hashes. For me, the water hash has less taste and aroma. It's just stronger, and I prefer that, I must say. But also now, for making rosin, the pollinated stuff that you just dry sift, I bought some pamphlets here, and that makes just the most amazing rosin. I made some with fresh frozen, and the results were just spectacular. And it really looked like caviar. If it looks like caviar, you got the right product.
I think with the question though, what I was leading up before was if you want to make a lot of hash and using a machine to make water hash, it makes a little bit more sense because it's more of a commercial application. If you want to make very high grade hash, the answer would be handcrafted, just like in anything. You want to use more tender, some more care, a little more selective process as opposed to more abrasive, harsh machines. So you really have to understand what am I making my hash for. And so hand paddles, going ahead and using very selective material. You can't make great material out of horrible material. So starting with great material, but then also applying newer techniques such as doing it in not only in cold water, but cutting your plants and growing them in a colder environment to keep those terpenes, cutting the plants, keeping them cold until you're going to process them, and then process them actually in a cold environment. Most people these days aren't doing their backyard or in their basements. They're walking into a walk-in refrigerator and keeping their environments below 60. You have to remember a lot of these terpenes start gassing out. They start becoming volatile at around 60 degrees all the way up to but by processing them and keeping them in an environment that keeps them from degrading and keeps them from gassing, you get to keep them. That's how you keep your quality to high properties. So they'll actually, I've seen places where people are walking with an ice cream push cart on dry ice, and they're cutting their plants and putting them directly on dry ice until they work on them, working them in a cold environment, and then after they work it, they store it from point of to point of sales all the way into a cold environment to retain the properties. Yeah, keep them cool in the dispensary, and that's because what we're really doing is the less you work material, the higher quality it is.
One of the things
Wait. So when they do all that, and they keep it cold the whole time, don't buy the gram and put it in your hot fucking car. Because once you do that, your shit's gone. Even your vape pen, if you leave it in there, it's gone. So you want to make sure nothing gets too warm, because that's when your terpenes go away.
Right, you were just talking about paddle washing here. We got a couple of machine guys right here. Let this guy talk first. Why do you prefer a machine to paddle wash?
It's not so much that we prefer the machine, it's that like really all depends on how much material you're washing. You know what I mean? Like if you say like a QP, you're not really going to spin the machine for a QP, you know, unless you know you got something super nice. You know you want to keep it nice. You hand wash something like that. If you have a couple pounds, different story. You know, you're going to want to run a machine. It takes a lot more time to run a couple pounds by hand. You know.
The longer you run any of these machines, you're basically collecting what you don't want.
Yeah.
Whatever it is you want, you're going to collect it within the first 5, maybe 10 minutes max.
Yeah, we don't even run for like.
Yeah, the saturation. You know, you don't want it to saturate in the water, so getting it in and out of that water is crucial too. You know.
Yeah, you gotta always add more ice. You know. Yeah.
But bottom line, the quality of any hash you're making will always depend on the genetics. You know, if your genetics are good, you're going to make some great hash.
Yeah, genetics, the grower.
Yeah.
Grower's huge. If you don't grow good cannabis, you're not going to get good hash, you know?
Right, so if you're not using exclusively hot piss wash mids every single time, you're not going to get the full melt.
Yeah.
And so I had some questions about full melt. I've heard that full melt is a myth, and that those the heads, they're surrounded with a cellulose that makes it so any kind of ice water extraction is not going to be full melt. But Bobby Nugg showed me something yesterday that looked like the raddest Phytol loaded yellow rosin I ever saw in my life. Addison, what's up with that?
What are you talking about?
I'm talking
water-like oils that exist in the plant. The fact that you can smell the plant while it's growing shows how volatile they are, because they will evaporate at room temperature so that you can smell them. That's what we're trying to keep by getting everything cold. We're trying to make that oil become more dense just by the act of keeping it cold, therefore keeping it in the plant so that when we do our extraction and separation, it transfers over into our hash. That's the reason that live resin is so terpy. That's the reason that fresh frozen is more terpy, because before you cut it down, the extremely volatile, more likely to evaporate at room temperature, the monoterpenes, the diterpenes, these leave. That's why your weed sack doesn't smell like your grow room. So keeping it cold, keeping it fresh frozen is to trap these oils in the plant so that when you extract them,
You want to grow at a very low temperature so you don't get your room that smells like a bunch of weed. You'll reduce your yields because you're going at a smaller, lower temperature, but you increase the terpene retention as well.
and for as far as people in here that grow, have you ever noticed how it smells when the lights are out? It's low temp. When you're in there and it's hot, like your flower room gets hot, the smell can be just overpowering. That heat's forcing those oil out of the plant.
So basically the consensus here that for intact trichome heads, the best is multi-layered dry sift. What LPIs do you guys like to mess around with for dry sift? Now we're talking about dry sift here, not bubble anymore. I forgot to introduce my friend down on the end there. That's Casey. Very, very old school bubble hash and extraction maker that actually taught me a lot of what I know. And this man's been to prison for this plant. So.
Hey. I started making hash back in 2006 in Missouri, of all places, where it was very, very illegal. I came out to California and really learned what I was talking about. And now I'm out here and loving what I'm seeing so far. It's really got it going on. And you're right, East Coast does have it going on.
What about water density, Casey? I've listened to you talk about water density, like the best density of the water, the temperatures to have the most dense water to get the best separation.
Okay, so what he's talking about is it's mechanical separation when you do water hash. It's not, you don't want to mix your trichome heads with the water at all. You want to keep them separate no matter what. Therefore, keep your water while it's most dense, which I found to be 39 degrees, believe it or not, and to keep your drying room around that temperature also. Not only are you preserving terpenes like everybody else is talking about, you're helping ensure that that trichome head and that water never mix, because it's a mechanical separation, it's not a solvent extraction like BHO or other things like that.
Because all of us have dumped out that beautiful smelling water.
Yeah.
I only know about centigrade, but the water at 4 degrees centigrade, 1 liter is exactly 10 by 10 by 10 centimeters, and weighs 1 kilo, and that's the temperature that the water is most dense. I just don't know 4 degrees centigrade.
40 degrees centigrade.
4
degrees centigrade.
That's like 39 degrees Celsius.
Yeah, you want to just
right. Exactly.
should be the same.
Right.
BHO.
Yeah, just like certain other tricks that you can mess around with if you're doing bubble hash. I mean, we're talking about dry sift now. Like it's measured in lines per inch rather than micron units.
Hey, I have a question.
Sure.
What is the definition of hash?
Hash. Fuck, man, I'm the moderator. I'm supposed to be asking you questions. Addison, what is the definition of hash?
That's a great question.
Collection of
The definition of hash. See, this is what I always tell people. They try to tell me that hash is one thing, and I'm like, the term hash could be used for fucking hash, for potatoes and onions and other shit for a reason, because it's a concentration or a mixture of things that make the end result, whatever you have.
Excellent analogy.
So someone said to me, well, if I take a bud and I crumble it up, is that hash? No, fuckface, that's not hash. That's weed crumbled up on the table. Fucking
you basically separate.
if you took all the weed on the table and put it into glassware and then let any sort of solvent sit in the glassware, you'd be making hash at that point. But until you concentrate and remove and isolate, you're isolating the contaminant, you're concentrating what you want, there you fucking have it. When you run BHO, you isolate the contaminant by pushing the solvent through. It goes into that, it gets cleaned back out, that's what you have. I don't care what Mark says. Mark's a friend of mine, Bubble Man. I love Mark, he's a great dude, but his head's up his ass if he thinks that BHO is not hash. It's hash. It's all fucking hash.
I'm inclined to agree with that.
Basically,
It's all hash. Sorry.
Hash is just the basically active part of the plant, the trichomes separated from all the rest of the plant material. And then, as far as I know, it doesn't matter if you just use it like that or it'll still be some form of hash. It's without plant materials.
So collected, separated, intact trichome heads are not the same thing as melted together, on a table.
It's collected, separated actives in whatever form you may want them. If you use the solvent to separate and collect those actives, if you use the mechanical process to collect and separate, if you're taking them and they're together, that's hash. That's how it works. And it's a term that's been around forever. And then when you get some fucking burnt out hipster that wants to come out and be like, well, no, it's actually, no, shut up. It's not. It's hash. That's all. And you can't turn it into something else. I apologize, but that's how it works. That's how it works. So
Well, that's how he got his bags, isn't it?
I must say I prefer the old school hash.
Yeah, right on, Mila. So I have a question for Mila, actually. Mila, what was it like back in the days in Holland when you were doing water separation and you were looking at all this like large-scale Moroccan dry sift coming in? What was that like?
Actually,
Were you like Addison calling everything mids?
experience started in '64, and we used to have to go down to the bars around the harbour, and the sailors would bring in hash from Africa, from Lebanon, sometimes even from South America. And that's how it started. There was no weed at that time. And then when I went down to Morocco, they had no hash there. They had keef, which was crumbled buds mixed with very black tobacco, and they smoke it in the long pipe.
So that's a question of terminology, the same way with the word split. Like the word split will mean different things in different parts of the world, right?
Yeah.
And the word keef means different things in different parts of the world.
Yeah.
See, some people think that keef is just, they think that dry sift is just something like they collect at the bottom of their trim table when they're done trimming. No, that's not dry sift, that's keef. You know, if you got a tumbler and you throw your trim in it, that's keef. If you got a sift table and you make dry sift, that's dry sift.
the difference is about $80.
Well, for me, keef,
Big difference.
for me, keef is this mixture, and once you dry sift it or tumble it, it becomes hash. It's no longer keef.
It actually is a ratio. There's a real ratio.
Thank you very much. Okay, so how about rosin?
Because the ratio would be off if it didn't bubble. So that instead of rosin's off together.
He's talking about bubbling over there. Hey, what do you think about the grading of hash? I was taught to grade by melt. You know, grade anything by melt because at the end of the day, you're separating plant material from trichome heads, right?
Boys cannot count. When you're talking about how you cut it, it's graded any way you want. And there's
Whoops, can't read either.
always some fun. It's like, I've got eight star. And you're like,
See, I don't understand that star system at all. It doesn't make sense to me.
I can't even spell star. Never mind.
Yeah, well, the thing is, they're using the grade to say how much is left on the nail. In order for the mechanical separation, because in a chemical separation, you won't have that. In a physical separation, the amount that's left on shows how selective your process was. So really the best hash in the world, I mean, I love BHO and I love adding, and I smoke BHO more than I smoke other traditional hash. But the best hash in the world is finally keep that's really cold, that's been shaken so barely that there's no plant material in it. It's like white,
It's like Cuban dry sift type stuff, static sift.
Yeah, so, and that's where, because the less you work the material, the more pure it tastes, and when you make water hash, a lot of those terms are the water taste. When you make a dry peat that's very selective, like almost like taking tweezers and pulling each trichome off individually. But when you taste that, it's really the essence of the plant and very, very little of the plant material. And so the smoking process might even be not even smoking the whole hit, maybe the last third of the hit on there, so that's the plant material.
So residue on the nail is what you're saying.
Exactly. You don't want to hit that carbonated kind of plant material stuff that might have not been selected there. But in that really, really white kind of dry sift is to my books.
Right on.
The truth of the matter is this: if you take all the people in the room, you've got a bunch of people that are here because they like hash and they heard about this and they want to be here. If you go out there and you go outside of this tank, most of those people don't know the difference. So it's just like a guy sitting there that owns 4 Ferraris and he's like, man, Ferraris are fucking great, and you're driving a Toyota. You're just like, but I don't get to drive a Ferrari. Most people don't get that kind of hash. They're not getting what we're talking about, like like Cuban grower shit or other shit. They don't get that stuff, so they don't even know.
Except that event.
That's because of Prohibition, though. Once Prohibition ends, then
Everyone who wants to get it can get it, and so that's really like all the things that are happening now are really based on the limitations of Prohibition. And so at some point you'll be able to get your Schlitz beer, and you'll also be able to get your micro beers, and you'll be able to BYOB, and those are the guys that make the best stuff. the guys that take the time to find the knowledge, get the proper tools, and do it in a handcrafted kind of small batch way.
One word, scale. Here's the word. The word is this, scale. Most of these guys, when they can do it on a small batch, and then you throw a shitload at them and you ask them to scale it, the quality of the product is not the same when they scale it. That's the fucking issue, and it's never gonna be that way. Even as you see large, like I'm seeing now, I remember there was a time when, like, if I posted a picture of me standing in a massive grow, my fucking mom would send me a message and be like, what are you doing? Now it's like everyone posts a picture of massive grow. Now you can go to Cali and stand in mid-Cal, and I can sprint in a greenhouse to a greenhouse to a greenhouse to in a 60-second video and just be running the whole fucking time through greenhouses of flowering plants at this point.
And he's fast.
It's getting to the point where those guys can't take that product and bring it to market because scale is too big now.
It's just so saturated.
It's too big. So you've got to now figure out, the next biggest question is, how do you take, and Oregon's the best example. Oregon is banging ridiculously hard, but you don't see their product on high end of black market because it's there and it's not coming out.
800 a pound all day.
Exactly, 800 fucking pounds. So they're mass.
Campfire Kush.
It's also being saturated because it's not regulated, so everyone and their grandmother is growing it, and those people wouldn't be allowed to grow it if there was some sort of standards and practices that were kind of applied and regulatory things that kind of ensure that only the people that are in it and have the knowledge and have the ability. Now, I don't mean in a commercial way where you have enough money. It's not pay to play. It's more knowledge to play, you know, and having the compassion and the skill and knowing what's good for you. Yeah, I mean, the big problem that we have now is people. It's so new. People think they're doing the right things and they don't even know they're doing it. For example, in pen cartridges, people use MCT oil. That's coconut oil. They think they're doing the right thing because coconut oil is fine for you. They don't want to use glycol. They don't want to use other crappy adulterants in there. They think they're doing the right thing, but sure, when you eat coconut oil, it's fine. But when you smoke it, it's poisonous. It's horrible for you. So people don't even have the knowledge or it's more bro, less pro. And as that changes, we want it in the middle, so the passion's there. But it really is a change that is happening.
Bro science. Am I the only person on the panel that sold weed in like a highly regulated market?
I've been in Southern Oregon for a couple years.
Oregon?
Yep. $10 a gram
We
all
had
day.
facilities in Colorado. I have facilities in Nevada. I never got introduced because I didn't give a piece of paperwork in place.
Introduce yourself, bro.
Put something to your lips. There we go. That's louder. All right. My name is Gideon. I'm the owner of Emotech Labs. I won a bunch of cannabis cups. I'm the co-creator of Live Resin. I make PHO extraction machines, and I build labs for facilities that do high-end production in regulated places like Nevada, Washington, now California, Alaska. And I was even one of the people that worked on the Jamaican decriminalization laws 2 years ago. So I've been in the regulated cannabis industry for 7 years now. And what I see more often than not is science blending in with marketing and tradition blending in with marketing. And what it translates out to is a bunch of people trying to define the product that they sell and trying to make their product stand out next to the guy that's selling theirs. So,
Fancy envelopes and such.
fancy envelopes, conforming to packaging, what's the new hottest packaging, what's the bro science behind it, you know, what's the...
Oh, the flatworms have no idea what's in their envelopes. They just care whose name is on the envelopes. Half the time, these kids don't even know what they have in their pocket. It's like, oh, what is that, Rod? Oh, I don't know. It's this guy. He's got a sticker on.
Half the time it's brown and they thought they got something good.
Yeah, for real.
Well, there was a time when Nug Run was great.
$800 Cali Pack Nug Run all day.
I know people who buy seeds so they can grow them to make live resin. They don't fucking they don't grow plants to harvest.
So you want to buy some seeds?
They don't buy scissors. You know, they don't buy scissors. Scissors?
All right, so I want to ask these guys about some rosin. Like, where do you guys like to crush your nugs at? Well, your bubble at? You guys make some rad bubble here. Team Mid-Grades hasn't got to talk very much. I want to know, like, where you like to crush your rosin at, what size platens you like to use, what kind of pressure. Talk about pressure dispersion. You want a cup with some of your 73 rosin, you know, right?
Yeah, we did. Solventless Savages, Bond put it on.
Local boys.
Yeah. I just use Medi sunscreen so I can control.
What micron?
25.
You like 25 for your bubble, not a wider one?
No, yeah, I use 25 for my bubble. I do a slower squish.
What temperature do you like to crush at?
I'd say anywhere from 130 to 150, depending on what's being squished.
Yeah. Rad bubble, you can crush at much lower temperature and you get that THC in.
And that depends on times there too. You have something that's good enough to dab as is, as melt, and you squish it, your times at 130 degrees, 7-8 seconds, and it's out.
It's almost sacrilegious to crush bubble like that. Bobby Nuggs showed me some bubble, yesterday that looked like a Radis rosin. What do you think, Brett?
What he said for bubble hash, I mean, as far as flowers go, everybody's on this like whole low temp craze, you know what I mean? I'm more about the higher temp, less time squishing, you know, just
you prefer something that'll test higher THC and expel more terpenes.
You know, it just juices out. It's usually more stable than most of these people. Like I just see a lot of wax, you know, rosin that just saps out. And none of it's really stable from what I see.
I got
a lot of butter,
like
a lot of butter. Well, it just looks like a nice clear slab, you know what I mean? Instead of.
So what do you guys think about fractionating rosin? Well, taking a rosin and then fractionating at different heats, different pressures and such. You guys are into the science, right?
You heard of Skylife Tech?
It's a way to make stuff that's not great better. But if it's really good stuff, you don't want to fuck with it.
I'll throw your name out there to go home and Google Skylife Tech. They have one of, as far as I can tell, one of the most high-end rosin presses that's available to the market. Controllable pressure, controllable heat, like to a very fine scale.
What kind of tonnage? What kind of platen size? Things like that?
Plate size 2.5 by 3.5. And
what I rock.
Yeah, and that's like they can go.
I can squish in flour or squish in press.
To press. I'm talking about squishing whatever you want to press. Yeah. So like you can keep the data point throughout whatever product you're going to make to it. I make hydrocarbon extraction, and
my plate's only that big. I use a small plate because I squish all bubbles.
yeah.
So whereas I squish all bubble and I don't squish flowers, I'm not usually squishing a lot. And I feel like if I put that a little bit in a bigger press, I'm gonna get more decarb, more burn off, trying to cross over a longer plate.
Well, with smaller platens, your PSI is going to be higher with the tonnage that you have. Because the large, it's just, mathematics.
With the
your surface area.
With what I've seen from this